The National Council on Disability, at that time led by Lex Frieden, was looking at all of these different issues and how we were having to just basically, put the finger in the dike to try to fix one here and one there, and came out with a report whose name escapes me at the moment, but I'm sure you would know what it is. In 1988, that basically was a call to action across a broad array of issues, but it was focused on civil rights as this is what this is. These are civil rights issues. And the next year they generated another report, but at that time the chairman of the council was an incredible man who wore a soft dove-colored gray hat, Justin Dart. And Justin took that first document and got in his little red pickup truck with his wife and took off and drove across this country and visited people with disabilities in every single state. He took that document with him and he said, is this it? Are we on the right track? And of course, they were. So the next year, the National Council published what was the precursor of the ADA. It was a call for legislation. And Lex and Justin and the good folks there really sat down and started writing what would become the ADA.
We were asked by our, because we're Developmental Disabilities Council and there's one in every state, the organization that represents all councils with disabilities was asked to point people in all the states to help spread the word about the ADA and get people activated. We looked around to find, of course, an accessible venue and where Justin could be comfortable, and made sure that we had that we had interpreters, that we had braille, that we had materials that made the venue really accessible. And then we invited all of the major disability organizations to send folks, and it really turned out very well. I mean, there was a good crowd. He was very pleased with the people that came out to hear the committee talk, and they were pleased to hear from the folks in Indiana who had issues related to disability access and inclusion, and what we wanted, what we thought was important in regard to the ADA. So, and I think he went to every state at least 3 times. And one of the things he used to do before he came to any state or any venue at all, he would say, okay, tell me the people who have been the disability advocates, who's been the ones that I should mention. And we say, oh, Justin, you don't have to mention me, you don't have to mention, no, I want to mention every single person that you can think of that's been important to this effort. And so every time he would talk, he would start out by thanking dozens of people that are from the local and statewide that had been involved in disability advocacy. And he did that. That was kind of a trademark of his.
Well, once Justin was there, we sat down and we had town meetings where we actually heard from a number of different people in a lot of different communities what the issues were, what was bothering them, what were some of the problems and barriers that they were dealing with. And basically that is what developed the ADA. Because of Justin's stature and his position in government, we were able to get hold of some of the folks that were the policy makers, some of the movers and shakers, and say, here's an individual who was appointed by presidents, and an individual whose capabilities and expertise and just plain and simple desire was so great that they had no choice but to listen. And so he also instilled in me the ability to recognize that it's important to be at the table.
Another thing about Justin that I learned during this whole process was that he was determined that he was going to find a way to get to the president on this. The first President Bush. And he didn't have the right connections to do that because he was a Democrat. But he knew the man who became the president's chief of staff personally. And so Justin thought, maybe if I can get to him, I can get to the president. So this started way back, even before the legislation was introduced, but he was obviously already working on it. He started asking him to go to dinner with him to discuss various issues affecting people with disabilities. And he would purposely take him to some nice place in Washington somewhere, and it wouldn't be accessible. Justin used a wheelchair. So this giant of a man would have to lift Justin and carry him into the restaurant, and then go back and get his wheelchair and carry it into the restaurant. Justin managed never to find an accessible restaurant in Washington, D.C., and they had dinner at least once a month for a year and a half. So it finally got down to crunch time, and the ADA was really about to go to the president's desk. Justin went back and he said, "Do we have to have dinner again?" The chief of staff said, "No, the president will sign the bill."
After everybody knows, once you pass legislation, that's the first step, but it's not, unfortunately, that's only the very first step. Regulations are very critical. Because of the groundswell of support for the ADA, and because we had people in positions in federal government that really believed in the ADA, including President Bush at the time, the regulations were put on a fast track. Really a fast track, considering how long it takes some regulations. Could be years after the passage of a law before regulations even are proposed. And this was on a fast track, so we spent the next couple years working on regulations for each title of the ADA, and figuring out what the steps should be, and when should buses be accessible, and what should be the progression, at what point will all buses be accessible, and at what point will all employers have accommodations in place and policies in place. And so that was all part of getting the ADA regulations in place. After the regulations passed, there was a big infusion of federal dollars to train people, mainly people with disabilities and other advocates, on their rights, their new rights under the ADA. And that too was pretty unprecedented, and I don't think that's ever happened in any other civil rights legislation. And I'm not sure what good star was shining on the ADA, but they really put a lot of money into it. And the Disability Rights Education Foundation got a big grant to do training all around the nation on the ADA, and it was focused on people with disabilities and advocates that could then take that information and use it to train and educate others.
There are still lots of things that need to be done. We're not at all saying that we're in a utopia because we have the ADA. We have a lot of work that has to be done. We have a lot of things a lot of barriers that need to be removed. Most importantly, we have a lot of people that need to become more educated about what this is all about. Being a person with a disability is something that can happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. Knows no sex, knows no race, knows no age. And so any one of us can become one of us at any time. And so that's why the ADA is so important to the whole world. It is something that is going to change minds as well as break down the barriers.